Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Healthcare Administration Internship Orientation. If you're not able to join us for the in-person session, wanted to record this so that you have a chance to get all this important information. So, some things that we're going to cover today, your internship support team, who those players are, why do an internship, some of the nitty-gritty around the structure and eligibility and the kinds of organizations and type of work that you can do for your internship. There's an intern questionnaire, some career services resources, background check, and then also timelines. So, without further ado, some faces that you will get to know a little bit better. So, first things first, there's me. I'm Carrie. I'm the Director of Experiential Learning for Parkinson. I work with all of the programs across Parkinson, not just healthcare administration. I've been at Loyola for about 6 months and really looking forward to getting to work with you and learn more about your interests and build good relationships out in the community. We also have Dr. John Sties. He is the partner practice lead for experiential learning and also one of the internship professors for the class. Along with Dr. Jim Munns, he also teaches a section of the healthcare administration internship course. And then, of course, Dr. Maggie Ozon Rafferty as the undergraduate program director. And then Marin Morrison, who some of you may already know if you've interacted with career services. She is the healthcare career community advisor and helps students with getting prepared for stepping into that internship placement with kind of your portfolio, your professional portfolio. So your question of why do an internship? Well, one, I guess the big one is that it is a required part of your curriculum in order to graduate. But not just that it's a requirement, but why is it a requirement, right? So, um, lots of reasons. One being when you graduate, you have all of this yummy content that you've been learning for the past 4 years, but maybe not a lot of opportunity to actually apply that in a real world setting. So this gives you that opportunity to do that. You can also use an internship as an opportunity to build relationships with people, to network, to get some insight on, is the thing that I thought I wanted to do when I heard about it in theory actually what I like doing in reality? So it's really kind of collecting some data for yourself too of what nature of work do you like, kind of systems do you like, and also just in general to have something added to your resume, right? That when you go to interview for that first job out of college, that you're able to speak to something that you've actually done within the field. So, some info about the internship structure itself. So there is it is HSM 360, which is the field internship, and across this semester, which is the spring semester of your senior year, you complete a minimum of 196 hours with an internship partner, which comes out to roughly-ish 15 hours a week. And there is an academic component that goes along with this experience. So it's not just you're doing your hours and then you get the credit. There is a seminar class that meets a handful of times throughout the semester. You'll do journals and, resume updating. You'll have reflection assignments. You'll track your hours. There's a midpoint and end of semester evaluation. There's a final presentation. So there are still academic things that you have to do during your internship course. Internships are considered a professional commitment. So things that may have previously gotten priority may need to be scaled back or renegotiated. So I'm thinking things like your club or athletic commitments. Um, we're adding 15 hours a week to your schedule, right? Now, the internship course is 6 credits, so that kind of helps take off a little bit of that additional time. Um, but there's going to be more things competing for your time during that semester than you probably have in other semesters. Also, maybe work schedules. Maybe you start planting the seeds with your supervisor of I made some flexibility on, when it is that I can do shifts. So a lot of the places that interns will be at are usually doing hours between the traditional like 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. workday. That I'm not saying like quit your part-time job or quit your job in general, but just knowing that you may need to flex. Maybe you've always worked Monday, Wednesday, Friday at your job, and now your internship is Monday, Wednesday, but you're able to move over to Tuesday evening, right? So plant some seeds on that. And then also thinking about travel plans. So during the spring semester, like spring break, for example, there may be some internship partners who, like spring break's not a thing when you are a working professional. And so they may be expecting you to be there during spring break. And like MLK Junior Day. I mean, I think a lot of places get that off, but hard to know for sure. So I would say maybe don't make any like solid travel plans where you've like placed deposits and stuff until you have a chance to connect with your preceptor and figure out what those commitments might be. And then also there is a program preference, like the healthcare administration program preference for in-person internship experiences. Uh, we know not many of you have had professional like in-person experience before. And so that's another part of the internship, right? Is like just some of those like etiquette things and what is considered norms and how people interact with each other, how they dress, how they speak to each other. Um, those are important things as well. So just want to put that on your radar. And then one class scheduling tip. So I know we're like not there yet, but just want to plant the seed now, put the bug in your ear now that if you need to do about 15 hours a week, it is helpful to have at least maybe one full weekday where you'd be able to just go and do your internship for that day. Or at least trying to make meaningful like 3 to 4 hour blocks so that when you go, you're not just there for 2 hours, right? If you're there for 2 hours, you're there like every day, which is a lot to ask every single day. So as you're arranging your class schedule, if there is a way to make it so that you're able to have chunks of time or even a full day available for just your internship, that will make you need to go fewer times, but have more meaningful blocks of time, if that makes sense. I know some of that cannot always be controlled. There may be one section of this one class that you have to do, and that's what you're going to have to do. But the places where there might be flexibility, I recommend exercising some discretion there. So in terms of eligibility, so you need to have a minimum of a 2.0 GPA, a senior in the healthcare administration program, successful completion of your fall classes. If you at midterms have a C minus or below, um, your match will be on hold. So we will not be ready to send you off in the spring semester if your fall semester grades are on shaky ground. And then you will also need successful completion of the prerequisites. And I'll pause here for a second so you have a chance to look at what those 10 classes are. Okay. And then there's some like career readiness things that we need you to do. So one is attending the internship orientation, which is what we are doing today. We will have another mini orientation refresher in like early to mid-September, just because I know we're gonna add more dates and have more things firmed up by then. And then you will submit information for your intern profile, which you will complete today. The link is going to be in this presentation. You will scan it and you will fill that out. You will do a field experience faculty interview mid to end of September, and then attend an interviewing workshop. We have one scheduled for this spring, April 17th at 1 p.m. in Sullivan 202. Marin will be leading that. And then we'll have a second date in mid or end of September. And honestly, every time that I attend a workshop, I learn something new. So even though you may not be doing your internship until next spring, maybe you're looking at something for this summer. And it's just good to kind of stay up to date on things and get a refresher. So going to both of those would be totally fine. I realize I have field experience with interview on here twice. And then the other part is a satisfactory background check. So I'm going to get into internship preferences, types of things. So I'll talk through the kinds of organizations, which is where you intern. So it's kind of like the container, and then types of work of what you'll be doing. Some notes. We do not have specific internship partners confirmed for the spring semester. We won't have those until like summer or fall. Um, they're currently with our seniors right now, and asking like 8 months out is kind of a far time horizon. Something to assume, not assume, is just because we have worked with an internship partner in the past, maybe somebody in the cohort above you is doing an internship somewhere, it doesn't mean that we are automatically going to have that for next year. Um, there's different commitments and capacity just going on depending on what's happening with the organization. So don't assume just be, oh, we're just going to copy and paste what the previous cohort have had. That's not always true. And we're always adding, and we want to use the intern profile and what your guys' preferences look like to help us shape as many of those opportunities as possible. So without further ado, um, kinds of organizations. So the first one is hospital and health systems, large healthcare orgs that provide patient care across a range of settings. Community health orgs or population health organizations. So these orgs work to improve health outcomes at the community level, which include outreach, prevention programs, health education, and expanding access to care. Thinking of next is health innovation and healthcare startups. So these are orgs that help develop new healthcare technologies, services, programs, processes with the goal of improving healthcare delivery, access, or efficiency. And then special populations and support organizations, orgs that provide a direct service and ongoing to support to a specific population that have some kind of shared situation. So whether that's health conditions, disability, or life circumstances. So that could be older adults in long-term care, individuals with disabilities, folks experiencing homelessness, or with specific health conditions. So that I would kind of put foundations in this category. And then types of work, there's 6 of them. So one is operations and improvement. So supporting the day-to-day ops, including the workflow, efficiency, service delivery, administrative or workforce functions, which could be staffing, scheduling, financial processes, org ops. The second is data quality improvement or program evaluation. So working with data to track performance, evaluate programs, and support quality, safety, research, and health information systems. Number 3 is community outreach or population health programs, supporting outreach, education, or prevention efforts that engage communities, improve access to care, and advance health equity and population health outcomes. Now you might be like, Carrie, didn't you just say that over here on this slide? Yes, and you can do community outreach work in other organizations besides community health orgs, right? Like you can do that in a hospital setting. You can obviously do that in a special pops and support organization. So this is more of like the kind of work. Next is program development and program management. Assist with the design, coordination, implementation, and management of programs and services, including planning, logistics, and team coordination. Patient experience or care coordination support, which is supporting efforts to improve patient experience, communication, care coordination, and navigate across healthcare services and systems. And then strategic planning or organizational projects contribute to planning, research, partnerships, policy, financial, legal, and organizational strategy projects that support decision-making and system-level improvements. Is this exhaustive? No, but we needed some buckets to kind of put things in. So you're also able to, tell us different kinds of things that you're interested in doing, but we thought this kind of captured a good chunk of things. So, I know in the past there's been a little bit of mystique about how matches are made. And I want to just pull back the curtain and give you an example, and what it is that we did. So this past year, I piloted this kind of like algorithm based matching, but also has a human review. So there's two layers to the process. And this is not something, before I get into deep, that you have to understand like the intricacies of this. Um, I just want you to have the general parameters and broad strokes of how we do this behind the scenes so that you know that it is fair and that we are also taking into consideration what your preferences are, but also how to keep the whole in mind as well. So seeing both the trees and the forest. Okay, first part of this is blind matching. So the student list is given and with all of your like your category rankings that you're interested in, your transportation, your living logistics, and your GPA, and your name is removed. And then there is a weighted formula. So based on the type of work you're interested in, maybe you want to do like data quality, for example. So you put data quality as number one. If there is an organization that has data quality as number one, as the kind of work that you'd be doing, you would get a score of 1. If your number 2 is data quality and data quality is ranked for them number 1 of what the kind of work you'll be doing, you get a 0.67. If it's number 3, it's a 0.33. Every intern is matched against or weighted against every internship opportunity. So you get a score for every single one. So it's not like, oh, I think this will look good. Let's just do the calculations on that. No, every single one is done so that we can see the full picture. And then for transportation, if there's a community partner that in order for you to do an internship there, you're going to need a vehicle, but you do not have a vehicle, there will be an override score and you'll just get a 0 for that because what we're not going to do is try and force you to go somewhere that you like physically cannot get to. So there's an override score there. And then the GPA is used as a tiebreaker. Last year we didn't have to use it. Didn't even really get close to needing to use it, but wanted to have a fallback. So really your interest in what opportunities there are available is what we're using, and also the logistics of transportation. Um, and then our goal is to have you matched with one of your top 3 scores. Why I don't say your top match is because some places have multiple top matches or people with the similar score. But I'll show you an example of that in just a second. So there is some negotiation based on availability, the other student scores, and that we're trying to maximize the scores, the highest scores across the entire cohort for both the students and the partners. So once we do that and we have like, here's draft 1, then student names are added, partner names are added, and then we're reviewing it for qualitative review. So that's where the stuff from the faculty interview is coming into play. So I will give you an example. So you'll see here, there's 6 students, here's 6 partners. Voila, great. This stuff what I highlighted in gold is where the student ended up being placed, for example. So I'll just draw your attention here to student 5 and partner 2. So, right, like we're looking for top 3, and you can kind of see that the categories that we had, created those buckets, some of them overlap. It would hard to have an internship that is like only this one thing is what you're doing. So they'll probably have multiple things that you're doing. Um, so this student has a 1.67. That is the highest score you could get. Their 3 lined up perfectly with partner 2's 1, 2, and 3. Extremely uncommon for that to happen. But I put it in there just as an example. So if we find a unicorn match, the unicorn match is going to go there, right? Because that's good for the student, that's good for the partner. They have someone who's really interested in the kind of work that they're hoping to get done. Cool. Then, okay, let's go over to just kind of looking down these columns, right? So, okay, 0.33, 0.67, not bad. 1.0, pretty decent. 1.33, okay. So looking here, looking across the rest of their row, it looks like this student has the strongest match at a 1.33. So there we go. We have student 5 and student 6 kind of figured out. Then it gets a little like murkier, and I'm going to give student 3 as an example. So we have them with partner 4. Okay, cool. They have a 0.67, so that means their number 2 matched up with, one of their project descriptions, basically. But this student has a 1.0 with partner 5. Like, why isn't this student with partner 5 when they have a higher ranking? Why did we put them with like a number 2 match? So, okay, now we look back over at partner 5. Who else? Here's one. They have a 1.0. Got it. So that is this student's highest overall option. And then their next overall option would have been with partner 2, which is where student 5 has a unicorn match, right? So if we had put student 4 with partner 2, we'd have lost an entire point in terms of like cumulative match. You know what I mean? And so like some of the quality of the match overall is lost, where putting student 4 with partner 5 and putting student 3 with partner 4, we actually only lose, so to speak, 0.33 as opposed to a 1.0. That was a lot of like manipulating things around, but all that to say, it's like a complicated version of Sudoku, right? And that there's domino effects and that people's rankings play into one another and availability plays into one another and the strength of the match and the cars and, all of that. Um, so that is what we do. First, we take an initial stab at it and then we put in the information. And where the human review part might come into play, for example, is you might be like, oh, I have a part-time job at blank organization. And then you're like, I'd like to diversify my experience and work somewhere else. Okay. And then we find that you matched with that organization that you already have a part-time job. Okay. That's not gonna work, right? So we might switch something around, or maybe you tell us that your parents live in Aurora, or they, live up in Libertyville or something, and you placed at an organization that is pretty south, and another person who lives south placed at an organization who's north, and those orgs are similar, and your scores are similar. We would switch you so that your commute's not as far, right? So there's a couple of examples like that. Okay, so what to expect in the field interview with faculty. Will happen mid to late September. It's about 30 minutes. It's a conversation really about your interests and your career goals and areas you would like to explore a little bit more. And then we're looking at your intern questionnaire, right? We're asking you to fill that out today and knowing that between now and September, things might change a little. So just have you expand on that and then give you some brief feedback on your resume because we want you to start on the right foot. You're probably going to have to send your resume to your preceptor at some point. And we want that to look good. You are a representation of us as Loyola. Some of these partnerships we've had for a while because of how strong our interns are, and how strong they present themselves on first impressions. So we'll talk a little bit more about that with career resources. And then how to prepare for this, you're going to bring a copy of your resume and you'll also dress professional or business casual attire. You do also have an option to find your own internship. If you're like, you know what, I have this opportunity ahead of me, my sister, brother, cousin, uncle, whomever, knows someone that I would really love to do this. Okay, cool. That is fine. There are a few things that need to happen. The experience needs to align with the program outcomes and goals. So that means that preceptors are meeting certain requirements. The project is meeting certain requirements and those learning outcomes and learning requirements. So these would need to be approved by Dr. Sties and myself. If you are working somewhere part-time or full-time and you're like, I'm pretty sure this would count. This experience, that cannot be your internship. However, you may be able to do something at that organization. Um, and right, like back up to why do an internship? And that is to add some breadth or depth to your resume. So either that we're adding something new and additional to your resume, we're adding a new chunk, right, like a paragraph with bullet points that you'll be able to speak to, or that you're adding more skills and more depth, and you're going further into an experience maybe you've already had. So if you're working somewhere and you're like, I could, work in this other department or take on this project, or I could work under a different supervisor, for example, and do da 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 da, that could work. So just be in contact with Dr. Stiles and I if that's something you're thinking about doing. And we want that due by September 1st. One note, in order to do that, we need to make sure that we have an affiliation agreement between us and the partner, so the organization. What an affiliation agreement is kind of it's a contract, it's a memo of understanding that formalizes the relationship legally between us and them. Because you are doing this experience for academic credit, they are like an extension of us. They are considered like a part of your classroom, so to speak. And we need to make sure that everyone's understanding their responsibilities and their roles. And there's also some important info in there about um, insurance and liability, that kind of thing, different compliance requirements. That is not something that you have to facilitate. Rather, I help with that. And I just need to know who the person is who would need to, sign off on it. So if this is something you want to do, that is why we have that September 1st date, is because there is some like contracting stuff that needs to happen. So that is an option. Okay, I'm going to pause here because if you have just been listening to me speak, I need you to go to the presentation and scan this QR code or go to this link and complete the intern questionnaire. This is where we're getting information about you and what you're interested in, what a little bit of your goals are, and some logistics around transportation and travel, that kind of thing. We are using this information to help inform the kinds of organizations and the kinds of opportunities that we are going to try and get set up over the summer for your cohort for the spring, right? Um, no, we can't promise with 100% certainty, right, that we're gonna be able to find the perfect, exact fit. Everyone's gonna have a unicorn kind of experience where it's a 1.67. It's probably not gonna happen, but we want to get as close to good matches as possible for you. So I'm going to pause for just a second. You also have the ability to pause this recording and scan it so that you can fill this out. Okay. I'm going to keep going with the presentation. If you need to go back and pause, please do. So next is career services. Like I mentioned before, you're representing us in Loyola and yourself, and you want to put your best foot forward. Because interviews are also like really long, or excuse me, internships are really like really long interviews, where they get to, see what kind of value added that you were able to bring to the table. And there have been internships that have created a role for a student because they enjoyed them so much during their internship, or that a role comes up and they're like, oh, yes, Bob Joe is going to be great for this. We're going to invite them to apply. That's great. So to do that, right, we want to make sure that your professional portfolio is looking good. So in career services, there are several different resources for you to use. One is Big Resume or Resume AI. They're kind of the same. They're the same thing. They're like called different things in different areas, but it's on the career services website. And essentially you upload your resume in, you get some initial feedback. And anything that I recommend to students, I always make sure I do myself first, to see if it is a good resource or not. And I did it for me And what it found was that I really liked using specific action verbs on like my different bullet point statements. I used the same one like 3 times, and they're like, hey, you've used this 3 times on one page. Maybe we find a synonym. And I'm like, that would be smart, wouldn't it? But it also catch like some formatting things, typos, grammar, if you're using different types of fonts, if things are right or left justified. So it's a good initial look at your resume. There's also some resume and job search guides. It has a template that you could use, and of course, you want it to reflect you and your experiences. But it could give you a place to start. And then also we have a resume review drop-in. This is happening just for everybody out at Loyola, so it's not specific for healthcare, but to have a human being actually get their eyes on your resume on April 13th from 2 or 12 to 2 in the Damon Den. And the interviewing workshop, which I had already mentioned, but I will say again, April 17th at 1 p.m. in Sullivan 202. And we'll have a second date mid to end September. I know this slide says 12 p.m., but it's 1 p.m. Okay. So next we're just going to transition to talk about health and safety compliance. So before beginning your internship, most organizations require students to complete certain health, safety, and professional compliance requirements. This is stuff that is laid out in the affiliation agreements that I mentioned earlier. And this protects the patients and clients and you and the community partner. By and large, most of the healthcare administration places only require a background check, but there are some places that would require more. Sites need to have the compliance clearance done before you start. So if you do not have this completed, you will be removed from your internship. I'll say that again. If this is not completed, you will be removed from your internship. It will delay your graduation. All documents go through a manual human review process. So that means it's usually 2 to 3 days once you submit what you need to submit for a human to review it and to provide feedback on it. And then background checks are valid for 1 year, and they have to cover the entirety of your internship. So the earliest date that you can complete your background check is May 1st, 2026. And the deadline is December 1st, 2026. So we are giving you a whole 6 months to get this done. Please, please get this done. We had a situation this year, not healthcare administration, but another program where a student really came down to the final wire. And yeah, they were literally an hour away from having their graduation delayed a semester. So let's not do that. In the background check, there is a $30 fee for. If there is a financial obstacle between now and December 1st for that $30 for the background check, please talk to me. I don't want that to be the only thing standing between you and your internship experience. So this is what this is called Qualified First. This is the compliance system that conducts the background check. And in your email, there should be an attachment that will walk you through step by step, screenshot by screenshot, how to do the background check. I mentioned before, some partners may require additional health and safety compliance things, but we will work with those students individually. That might be things like vaccination records. But here is a QR code that would take you right to the Qualified First website. And again, please don't make my please make my job easier. Don't make my job harder. Don't procrastinate on this. I will send an email May 1st being like, hey, you can do your background check now. Please. Please. That would be great. And that's a picture of my dog. And then this is the student letter. This will also be attached in the email. The most important part here is this code. On Qualified First, this is where you enter the code. And then it'll walk you through how to do it on the background check. If you have questions about Qualified First in the background check, there is a customer support like chat feature. So Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, they have somebody available to answer your questions real time. Also a phone number and email address that you can use. Again, I pretended to be a student and went on and asked a question here because I like trying things before I recommend them, and they were helpful. So that is good. And if you get stuck on something, please just email me directly. Happy to help. Um, Oh, there was one more thing on this. For background checks, the only one that will see any kind of detailed results is me. So you don't have to worry about any of your professors or advisors or anything seeing if there's a discrepancy on your background check. There is an appeal process, but I wanted to let you know that it is just me, and it isn't going to shape or color any kind of grades that you receive or impressions that you have made on folks. And then this is the timeline of what it is that between now and the start of your internship needs to be done. So attending the internship orientation, attending that drop-in resume review, the interviewing workshop, submit your background check within that window, that deadline for your own internship site. So it's all kind of in one spot. Okay, last slide, folks. There is a survey at the end here. That is just for some feedback for us of did we answer your questions for during this orientation. As people who care about quality assurance, this kind of stuff is important for us to also make sure that we are continuously improving and making tweaks and changes to make things even better for you guys. And if you have questions, my email address is kmusick@luc.edu. All right, folks. See you later. Bye.